on day 3 of the Cloudways Prepathon for AI and Innovation. Today, we are joined by the head of demand gen at Pipe 17, Derric Hayne, an e-commerce expert who has demoed over 350 e-commerce tools. He is here to lead this session on the future of e-commerce technologies, and we're really appreciative of him joining us today. With that, I'll pass it over to Derric. Thank you so much for joining.
Hey, yo, can you hear me? Can you see me all right? Really looking forward to this today. Thank you guys so much for having me, by the way. Here I'm sharing my screen now. Awesome. I mean, we can just dive right in. A little bit about me to tell you like why I know a little bit about the commerce enablement landscape and all that stuff. I spent a lot of time in e-commerce in the past. I was running an agency where I had a lot of e-commerce clients, and I felt like one of my jobs was literally to, help them find the right tools to grow. And then also as an agency owner, you're always trying to find the right tools to scale out your time, since time is the number one resource you're selling as an agency. From there, one of my clients actually like kind of bought us out. I moved in-house with them, shut down the agency, sold it off, and grew a good sized team and spent a lot of money in Facebook and Google ads and overseeing a large marketing department where we grew a subscribership base of over 550,000. We call them charmers, monthly box subscription holders. And that company sold a couple years later and merged with another player in that beauty box subscription space. So that was a fun, wild ride. From there, I switched over to the technology side. I always actually prefer, I like to call it selling the shovels. If you're here in e-commerce, you know that your job is to actually sell product, which could be physical shovels, probably more like beauty products, fashion products, food, or dog toys, whatever it is that you happen to sell. But I actually like selling the technology to the to e-commerce merchants because I feel like there's a lot of value that you can add by helping e-commerce. And let me be honest with you, being in e-commerce, you might know this already. It is rough, isn't it? Even when you're successful, you have problems, which is, it may be true in a lot of businesses actually, but in e-commerce, the problems of scale. Oh my God, we got so many orders, we can't even fulfill on them. Like the nightmares of the pick and pack late nights, staying up, and all the fires you have to put out. It's of course a never-ending battle. So moving in-house with gorgeous e-commerce, great e-commerce technology, customer service technology, serving e-commerce merchants. From there, started my own media and events company where I took it upon myself to demo technology products and review them on my site and YouTube channel. And so that's where I kind of really went from zero to I don't know. It's not. I mean, you only scratch the surface. There's over 10,000 different commerce enablement technologies, and I've only demoed 350 of them. So, can you call me an expert if I only know what is that one less than 5% of the landscape? So yeah, I don't know, but I learned a lot about a lot of different tools and tool categories. Learned a lot about what salespeople try to sell you versus when you need to buy things. And I created a little bit of a process that we'll go through at the end of this presentation on how you can make better decisions in choosing technology products. Right now, I'm in-house with Pipe 17. It is an omni-channel order hub for e-commerce operations teams that helps get you out of spreadsheets. I'll give like a little blurb on it later, but it's great technology, growing fast, and really excited to be helping the team there. Other than that, I played high stakes poker professionally for 10 years, wrote a book and all that stuff, had a successful exit. I've mentored and advised for multiple different commerce enablement technologies, did a little investing, and yeah, that's all you need to know about me. Probably spent way too much time there. Let's get into the meat of what we're here to talk about. Now, before we can talk about the future of e-commerce and the future of e-commerce technologies, we really need to take a few minutes here to analyze what's been going on since the dawn of e-commerce, which I'll just say is around 2000. But of course, we do have a few players in here that you could argue started beforehand, like Amazon in 95. I mean, did you actually buy anything on Amazon? Are you even old enough to have bought anything? Maybe I'm dating myself. I would have been 10 years old, so I couldn't have bought anything in 95. But the dawn of e-commerce, in the beginning, it was really hard to launch an e-commerce store, right? So we had to custom code our own page. We had to go find our own payment processor and sort out our own checkout process and all that stuff. And now, of course, all that stuff is plug and play with the Shopify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, Magento, whichever one you want to choose. And so it's easier than ever to start an e-commerce store. And it's thanks to this kind of proliferation of technologies that now serve and kind of make everything plug and play for e-commerce merchants. And then, of course, on the consumer side, e-commerce sales have been growing and skyrocketing. COVID, of course, streamlined it, or what should I say, like gave a big boost to it, but it's still growing year over year in this post-COVID era. So we know when you see money going in to a new industry, and when you see technologies enabling that industry, right? You have what starts as a gold rush and then becomes actually a saturated market. And so that's kind of the framing I want to give to you here. We can see the number of Shopify merchants growing rapidly. And so if you were the first person to sell snowboards online, it's going to be really tough to be the first person to sell a new e-commerce product in any given category, unless, of course, you've created some sort of patented product, right? And so that just means competition is there. And of course, that competition leads to what we might call like alternative competition. Like you might not think that beauty products are competitive with pet products, but technically, if you have a fixed budget, you might be competing with all e-commerce companies out there in the space, right? Because people are choosing how to spend their disposable income or their luxury income and so forth and so on. Then we have the proliferation of technologies supporting e-commerce. And this is actually the MarTech landscape. So it's actually kind of even broader than e-commerce here, starting at 150 map technologies in 2011, skyrocketing to 8,000 in 2020. I think we're at 16,000 now in 2023. So doubled in the last 3 years. And that really just means to say that like, oh, and here's a little landscape for you. If you're on Shopify, you can use this to map some of the technologies that specifically enable Shopify merchants. I can send you a link to it to the ecomtech.link/landscape. But yeah, I'll move on from there. The point of the story here is that there is now an app for that. In the past, you had to custom code your own solution. Did you need to bundle products together? Did you need swatches? Did you need AR components to your website? Did you need to launch your own mobile app builder, right? Mobile app. You would have to custom code that from the ground up. That is not the case anymore. There's like 15 companies in the mobile app builder space. There are hundreds of bundling tools, banner pop-up tools, email collection tools, of course, dozens of email service providers. We know that Klaviyo just went public, so we've clearly got an app for all of our solutions. We shouldn't be reaching out to our developers to say, hey, can you code this for us? Right? Of course, like minor tweaks to your HTML. That's not really coding. I mean like actual hard custom coding, some sort of technical solution. And because there's an app for that, what we're seeing in the market is really quite, and this is relatively new, last 3 to 5 years, we've seen a significant amount of market consolidation. So in the past, we had the jack of all trades was the master of none. As a basic example, a lot of these companies here, we mentioned Klaviyo going public, they started as email service providers, started as a rewards tool, started as a recharge. In the case of recharge, they just were a subscription tool, and they were really just the back end subscription component that connected your customer to a recurring Stripe transaction. If you think about it, is actually quite basic. It's just a few lines of code and some SOC 2 compliance, and you're good to go. But now each of these companies, having raised tons of money, are going after the big picture. And of course, the reason that this is very good for e-commerce, because it's better to have all your solutions in one place. And it all really stems from the concept that we want a customer-centric view as opposed to a channel-centric view, right? So if we're only doing email, that really is just tracking the customer along one channel. But we want to track our customer across the entire journey, which means it would make sense if the tool did the entire journey. And so this is where the pivot comes from the jack of all trades, master of none, to now there are plenty of masters of many. And then on top of that, Shopify themselves, of course, have been growing and acquiring companies so that they can be a little bit more than an e-commerce platform, master of many. This did sell off Shopify Fulfillment Network, spun off, and I think they failed at fulfillment because it is quite a technical challenge. But what Shopify is very good at is acquiring tech companies and incorporating tech into their stack. And of course, they're also very good at enabling their app partner ecosystem. And then we have the new players in the market. When you see a bunch of companies starting to merge and acquire, what happens is the VCs start getting involved. So WeCommerce is a spinoff of Tiny Capital, is a multi-billion-dollar fund with Assembly, Fantastic, stay tuned. These are companies that all basically went to investors and said, give me 50 million. And the investors were like, oh, okay, you have no business, but all right. And then they went and said, we're going to acquire 5 companies that all do something very similar. We're going to roll them up together, streamline the operations, and sell them to, basically in this case, e-commerce merchants, right? And so you can see the value prop there. as we roll these things up, because there really is a lot of savings in the back end. You're selling multiple things to the same, in this case, e-commerce brand. And that e-commerce brand is benefiting because it's easier for them to use this all-in-one tool, where actually each of the pieces of the all-in-one are quite robust. It's not a bunch of piecemeal together, half-done functionalities, right? And so when VCs start getting involved, you kind of want to pay attention, and you also should expect the landscape to change. I would even argue faster than it has been in the past. So the point of what I'm trying to say here is that all-in-one is now better than standalone. If you're going to launch an SMS tool today for e-commerce merchants, you would probably just fail. To be honest, you'd probably have a 6-month run rate. It would be tough to acquire customers because their incumbent solutions are just going to be way better than you. You'd have to build something truly, truly amazing, right? Of course, we can talk about AI in a little bit, but like there would have to be some sort of novel approach to launch that. If you were just building a loyalty tool, you'd really need to find a novel, laser pointed way to penetrate the market. And so when we look at e-commerce technologies today, you should be thinking naturally like, hey, is this a half fast, half built standalone cornered solution, or does this solve multiple different problems of mine all at the same time? And then of course you have to think to yourself, if it's solving multiple different problems, is it solving problems that overlap with any of my other existing tools? And we'll get to that whole process of deciphering the tool landscape in just a little bit. Next up, to really understand the future of e-commerce, we need to look again into the past at the rise of digitally native vertical brands. What's a digitally native vertical brand? It is a company that started online, typically through the rise of social media and connecting with the customers on social channels, and has been able to become successful and probably even branch into retail through that. So as the turn of e-commerce happened in 2000 to 2015, you saw failures of retail to acknowledge the way that they could build relationships with customers through social media and direct-to-consumer selling. And they would go out of business. Payless Shoes, Sears, my saddest one, I would say, is Toys R Us, having failed, in the last few years, all because they thought that they could continue to sell products on retail shelves and that foot traffic passing by their store would be good enough to succeed in business. If they had instead tried to build stronger relationships with their consumers via digital, like somebody like Lego was able to do very successfully, then they wouldn't be going out of business, right? They would have people flocking to the stores because they're getting their attention is being grabbed online, and they can bridge that omni-channel relationship. So with the rise of Casper selling mattresses online, which is very innovative, where's Away creating a travel category and selling online, Birchbox and of course BoxyCharm, very similar beauty products being sold online for the first time. We have watches, we have glasses, and all these things being sold online, specifically because the brand was able to build a relationship with the consumer, again, typically through social, but not always. Here's an example, just really quick, 2 brands doing that. And the point of the story here is that henceforth, I declare that there will be no successful companies that stem from retail and go into digital. So if you're starting today and you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to start a brick and mortar store, and there are a lot of tiny, small consignment shops and things like that, and that's totally fine. Maybe they can be successful in their own right, but I don't think that's the way that you create and scale a large scale brand, let's say. And so most brands that are starting today start direct to consumer, grow an audience, find a way to connect with that audience, and then might branch out into retail. Maybe they start selling on Target and Walmart and a few other places like that. Depends on, of course, the type of products you're selling. Maybe they decide to launch their own standalone store, which of course we've seen with Bonobos and a whole bunch of others where they have showcase stores. Untuckit, I think, is another great one that now is in a lot of malls, but started with digitally native first. And so, so you should expect digital first. It has to be successful. And that's really the reason I say that we won't see retail go into digital, is because getting digital right is probably the hardest part. And once you've proven that that works, you can launch a retail store off of basically the back of your digital profits and use them to play off of each other for a improved customer experience. All right, I've been ranting quite a lot. One moment. Woke up this morning with a sore throat, but we're all good here. So as we get into it a little bit more, we'll finally start to look at some tools in the AI space, which I think is a great maybe transition for us. What is new, and as we look towards the future of e-commerce, maybe even the present, let's call this the present. So that was all the past, really. Now we're into the present. I should probably, I don't know, put the present on a slide. It doesn't matter. So we're now able to take our existing data as an e-commerce brand because as a digitally native brand, all of our like information with customers and all that stuff, it's all stored in a database somewhere. And we can actually turn that data into profit if we find the right tools to enable us. And this is relatively new. It's certainly been there for retail and enterprise for a long time. And they'd hire teams of developers, and business analysts would look at your data, and you would spend 10 million a year trying to forecast all your inventory and all that stuff. None of that needs to be done anymore. It's all streamlined with the proliferation of technologies. It's also a lot cheaper than it used to be. So what does this look like in practice? Let's look at some examples. Phoenix Commerce is a cool tool. What does it do? It simply takes all of your order history data and says, okay, this is when you ordered something. This is when it was delivered to their house. And this is where they live. And this is the warehouse it came from. It takes all of this data and compiles it together and predicts when the next order is going to land at the doorstep of a consumer. So if you order within 2 hours, you get it tomorrow. You've seen this on Amazon, but the value of this on your own site increases conversion rate by 15% and also allows you to upsell certain types of shipping options that a lot of people are really missing out on today. So it just predicts the landed date of your shipping product using your existing data. Really, it's quite simple. They have a whole order experience platform behind that, but I'll pause there because I just think this on-site conversion component is just so cool. So this is just one example of using your existing data that might just be sitting in a database somewhere. Another fun one is basically taking your product descriptions, product detail pages, throwing them into a tool like Copysmith, or now we have ChatGPT, and pumping out improved product descriptions, social ad copy, Google ad copy, and so forth, and testing it. And when you run out of ideas, you can just ask ChatGPT now, hey, create a 15-second video story for this company. I wouldn't probably make this ad, but you can. You're getting to the point now where you can ask the tool to create the ad. Then you can actually create the videos using AI completely, or using your existing assets. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. And then go publish it to the channel, and then see how it performs and increase it. So here's the tool for that. This is called Pencil. I think it's trypencil.ai or something like that. Where you take all of your existing brand assets, you give some guidance on like, hey, I want it to be funny. Here's a few taglines. Boom, it creates a bunch of ads for you in all different sizes. You push them to the channel and it will say, hey, this one's the top performing. Let's see why it is. Uses like thousands of meta tags in the back end. It says, oh, it's because you use this tagline and the product was shown at 3 seconds and there was a element of comedy at the end. And all of a sudden, you know that you can create more ads like that. So removing the need to hire an entire content team, maybe not an entire content team, but pretty close to an entire content team, and just using a lot of your existing content to improve return on ad spend. Pretty cool. Another one I love is Bloom. So we're talking about conversion rate on that product detail page. They can create the kind of like adjusting the product images. I think a lot of people really neglect optimizing their product images. It turns out, by the way, the white background on a product image is the lowest converting almost universally. So if you can add some sort of lifestyle component to it, it's going to be successful. Bloom uses AI to do just that and improve conversion rate. It automatically tests which one's performing. It tests the order of the images and how many should be shown. Another great one in this space is Chrome Image Labs. They're a mix of some AI and actual designers. And they've grabbed all the data off of Amazon and looked at all the product categories and said something like, okay, well, if this is the product for a dog, what is it, a skin like coat brightening tool, I don't even know what it is, then we know that there should be a picture of a dog, there should be some information on the image, and that we know that's going to sell better because we've analyzed thousands of images on Amazon and can tell. Same with the candle, you need that background, that lifestyle image, so you can almost smell it, right? And so it's using technology to do that. It can use your existing data to do that and really help you increase conversion rate on the site. Another fun one is Triple Whale, omni-channel ad attribution. You cannot rely on Facebook or Google to tell you the return on ad spend of a specific ad, especially with the more channels that you're running. One second. And so there's no way a human can make a calculation on what channels are actually performing at what levels. You absolutely must have an AI-based ad attribution tool. So Triple Whale is one. There's a couple others in the space, but it will actually tell you which channels are performing at what levels, help you adjust your ad budget, all based on your existing data, right? This is kind of the theme of these AI tools here. Site, a really cool visual discovery tool, will take images that users actually upload to your own site using this little camera image. So especially great for products that don't have like clear names, like what would I call these? Red glasses, jean shorts. I don't know exactly what to call them. They upload the image and it matches that image to your product catalog using visual learning AI. And it says, hey, I think these are the glasses that most resemble what you uploaded in this image. Huge conversion rate boost, makes it easier to find products on a site, especially when you're working with a lot of influencers and stuff who might just be, taking shots on Instagram and mentioning your brand name. They, the person following them wants to go to the site and see what the product is, and it's tough to find. Perfect for that, and perfect for high SKU count stores. Hey, I might as well give a plug for Pipe 17, as I alluded I might do a little earlier. Great tool for e-commerce operations teams who are bogged down in spreadsheets, trying to route orders on the back end. So the same way that we were talking about Phoenix Commerce using order data to predict landed dates, we're more of the piping of that order data to fulfillment, so that you don't have to export to a spreadsheet, debundle and re-SKU everything, and then choose which warehouse to upload it to and go send it off to them. It all happens automatically with rules and logic in the back end, and uses your own data to get you set up for success, save dozens of hours, reduce click to delivery times, and generally stop your ops team from breaking during high stress moments like Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Hey, all right. So kind of the point of all of these tools and showing you that there's over 16,000 tools in the landscape today is to acknowledge that all e-commerce companies are falling behind technology. It's basically the nature of of starting and growing a company. I ran my own company dedicated to analyzing these tools, and I was falling behind. So if I can't even keep up with it when that was my entire job, I guarantee you can't keep up with the landscape. The delta between what you're able to do, how fast you're able to change, and how fast technology changes, that's how much money you're losing by not understanding and adopting technologies in real time, let's call it. So the better you can be at choosing tools, the more money you will save slash profit, right? All right. I think we got it. I'm just going to check on the time. Okay, we got plenty of time here. All right. So, and the second part of my story here is that AI will absolutely always be making better decisions than you. And that wasn't always true in the past, but now moving forward, we can absolutely expect that. And AI is going to displace your team. So you're going to need less people to do more things. I think a team of 5 in e-commerce is like a really, really strong number. A product person, a marketing person, a operations person, a customer success person, and then let's just call it a business development person. That's might be all you need, and then tools empower those 5 people to grow and scale a business quite successfully. Now let's dive into how we choose the right tools for the business. So this is kind of like, let's say, the meat of what I want you to learn and take away today. After kind of going through the past, present, and future of e-commerce technologies, let's make sure that you are making the right decisions and using the right kind of logic to install tools, because I've seen merchants do it wrong on both sides. First of all, not acknowledging that there's change in the landscape, buying multiple tools to solve the same problem, buying too many tools all at once when you don't have enough bandwidth to install and run them successfully. And then, of course, blaming those tools when you uninstall them, paying for tools that you didn't actually use. Yeah, I've seen it all across the board. So there's 2 types of tools, KPI-based and time savers. We're going to focus on KPI only. Probably right now, the way that you're choosing a tool is that it starts with a small fire and starts growing and growing until it's quite a big fire. Then you take one of your team members who's likely underqualified at choosing technologies and focus on one specific activity, let's say customer service, and you task them with finding the right customer service help desk. They have no real experience at selecting technology products and probably don't understand what the requirements and cohesiveness of the tool is and how it's going to fit into the rest of the stack. But undoubtedly, their next step from jumping on to this grenade or fire is to ask our overlord, Google. All right, Google, always watching, always there. Hopefully they found something in the top 3 search results, because we know they're not looking any further. And now they can try and figure out the jargon on each of these tech providers' websites and maybe choose one of them or demo a couple tools with boring sales processes and confusing jargon and often over-eager sales reps trying to just sell you any old thing to make their quotas. And at the end of this very scientific process, through all the demos, which of course are totally unavoidable, all the Facebook group posts and Slack posts asking, hey, what do you guys use for customer service and all that stuff, looking up what your competitors are doing, they maybe have just found a tool that seems to fit, but we don't really have any guarantees or logic or conditioning, because of course they didn't start the process in the right way. They didn't create the framework needed to be certain that they're successful. So there's got to be a better way. This is a very simple 7-step process. I'd argue that the number one thing that most people forget is step 1, needs analysis. Who are the stakeholders and what do they actually need from this solution? Is it a customer service help desk, or is it a live chat tool? Because sometimes they're the same thing. Sometimes you just need one, not the other. Does it need to be a full-fledged CRM? Does it need to integrate with my operations technologies? Does it need to be on the website, or is it only on the channels, or does it need to be both? What integrations do I need to have for this tool, right? So these need to be listed out ahead of time, because this is really important. And then of course we get to budget. A lot of technologies, especially in the marketing technology space, a lot of MarTech tools are going to increase conversion rate. That's great, but you still don't have an infinite amount of dollars. For instance, that tool Site, very cool tool, great for fast fashion, high SKU stores, but it starts at like 3 or 4 grand a month or something like that. If you're only doing 40 grand a year, 50 grand a year, that would just obviously destroy the business. It wouldn't make any sense to research that tool whatsoever. So there are certain budget requirements, even when you can acknowledge that the tool will help you be successful, right? You're just going to be at different points of scale. And so you'll have different needs that restrict your budget requirements. Being honest with that, because a lot of people are like, well, if it fixes our problem, we'll spend any amount of money on it. And then 3 months later, they're like, oh, we overspent on that. Because it's not true. Budget comes at a cost. And most importantly, what I'd say here is that a lot of tools, let's talk, subscription tool, customer service tool, conversion rate optimization tool, they're going to charge based on some metric like orders or page views or, number of contact records in your database. That is a direct impact on your margin. So there is a value proposition in looking at your financials and taking a chunk, looking at the technologies that you spend on, which should be like somewhere between 1% and 5% of your annual budget, and putting that into your margins, and understanding that for every order that we take, 1 to 5, let's call it 3% of that goes to our technologies. And then if I add this new technology, is it 3.5 cents? Is it 3.7 cents? How does that affect our margins? Because obviously, when you go into the red in profitability, you're going to lose. You're going to have a bad time in the business. So you can find tools that work for you, but do they work for you profitably? Is absolutely the right challenge and way to be thinking about it. We need to understand switching costs and lock-in costs. Switching help desks can take a lot of time. Starting a new one maybe is a little bit easier. Switching CRMs, right? If you're, everyone talks about Klaviyo as being one, but maybe there's a better CRM tool out there, plenty of other ESPs in the space. You're looking to switch. How much resource time is it going to cost? How long does it take to get moving on the next one? How long until you ROI on the change from one tool to another? Creating a short list, which is still that discovery process, asking around and getting feedback from other people, but at least now you're doing it in a way in which you can rule things out immediately based on your needs analysis, integrations, budget, right? And then, of course, yes, go into the demos and ask the questions that you've discovered between 1 and 4. Is it easier to switch to this tool? Does it fit my budget? Does it have the right integrations? Does it have the right features and functionality? And nothing more. Because as soon as they give you more than what you need from features and functionality, you're going to be paying more than you need as well. And then finally, testing, onboarding, going live, and hopefully ROIing from it. You need time to get good technologies into your business, fully integrated. You're often going to change processes in your organization in order to be successful with technologies. Acknowledge that, own up to it, know that it's, implementing a new technology, if it fails, it's oftentimes on the merchant. I would say that it can be on the sales rep for overselling something that the merchant didn't need, but that's kind of the merchant's fault still, isn't it? You need to acknowledge whether you need the tool or not. Don't just be sold on it. And so I have a little bit of some quick tips on what to do when you're dealing with salespeople. I recommend not signing contracts as much as you can. Generally, it is better to find month-to-month payments than annualized tools. Of course, that's ironic since I work for a company that focuses on annual contracts, but I stand by what I say. Sorry, team. But be patient with your purchase. Make sure that the problem is actually big enough. So as an example with customer service, If you've got 5 inquiries a month, you don't need a tool. If you got 50, you don't need a tool. If you have 5,000, you're probably bleeding from the neck, and you probably should have gotten a tool somewhere around 1,000. Sometimes you need to hire to also bring on a technology. So could be when you hire that first customer service rep, they also bring in a technology to support them. Same thing is true in order operations, right? So when you're hiring somebody to go through spreadsheets and send orders to fulfillment, you might also want to, or in this case, displace that person's job with a technology like Pipe 17. Yes, I had to give myself a plug, right? In order to satisfy my higher ups. Listen to the sales reps cues. And what I mean is like, they'll be like, yeah, we work with big brands like Duracell and Noble and Coca-Cola. And you're like, wow, I do 500,000 a year. I do $1 million a year. How I don't relate to those brands at all. They're probably telling you their technology is too enterprise for you, but they'll still sell it to you. So be careful. Ask them about their competitors. A lot of people will tell you a little bit about them, but not the truth. But that at least gives you a foothold to then go research competitors and really figure out where the differentiation is. Everyone says they're different when it comes to success. We have the best support. That's what you're going to hear across the board. Ignore that. Best support is par for the course. It is not a differentiation factor. Look for pricing transparency and fairness. Are the prices on the website? Do you know you're getting the best deal, or are they trying to gouge you? Always, always, always have 2 options on the table. Something that I learned from a book, Decisive, is that it's not get this tool or don't get this tool. It's what else could I be getting instead of this tool, right? You have a plethora of other options. Make sure that you're looking at multiple options to make your best decision. And when you're kind of on the fence between 2 companies, the funded or high growth company is more likely to move fast on features and functionality and be successful. And so that's the one you want to bet on. All right. That is it from me. I really hope you enjoyed my time here. A little bit off topic, but we just finished up a virtual summit on TikTok Shop, which is a brand new selling channel for merchants. Really, really cool stuff. You can actually sell directly on channel with live shopping, whole bunch of other cool functionalities. If you are thinking about launching on TikTok, or maybe you're already big on TikTok but don't have a shop, you can check out the whole virtual summit for free on demand here at pipe17.com/that. Yeah, we'll plug that in the chat. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll pass it back to James and team. And yeah, happy to chat more with anybody.
Yeah, thank you so much, Derric. That was a really wonderful presentation. Well, without further ado, I think we're just going to wrap up this session now. Thank you all for attending, and best of luck with the rest of the Prepathon.
Hey, yo, thanks again for having me.